Microsoft's Xbox 360 is already one of the greatest consoles of all time. And somehow, some way, you can make it even better. And that's what this is. This is a better Xbox 360. Welcome back to oh god, the window's open. I legitimately just made a video talking about this great system a couple of weeks ago now at this point. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was a couple weeks ago. If there's any console that deserves probably more love than one dedicated video on it, or at least one console, or one of the consoles, right? One of the consoles that deserves the love, it is this one. So this is probably something that most people know at this point. It's just that I'm very much late to the party, and yeah. So there is a new exploit for the Xbox 360. Before there was the Tony Hawk's American Wasteland method, which I believe you had to have the physical disc to be able to run that. And then before that, there was like that crazy way where you had to take it apart, start soldering it or something. Like, I can't do that. Are you kidding me? I can barely put peanut butter on a peanut butter sandwich without my hands being a mess by the time it's done. If you ever told me at one point in my life I was going to sit down one day and be able to get the Rock Band Blitz trial and run an exploit with it, I don't even know what I would have said. Probably just, I don't know. I just probably would have been very excited. It's just, this is probably just too good to be true or something. What this really comes down to is this is just a way to make the Xbox 360 more amazing than it is by running this exploit with the Rock Band Blitz trial, sorry. I feel like this is something that has been just waiting for me my whole life. Like, I'm talking legitimately since I was very young and stupider. Just waiting around forever and waiting for the opportunity to be able to do this specific thing. It just felt like it was made to happen or something, maybe. The fact that the Xbox 360 marketplace shut down last year too makes this even more worth doing. There's probably, even before that, it was definitely worth doing, but just even more so now because you don't have to worry about that even existing anymore. It's definitely sad that it did shut down, but at this point you don't have to worry about the marketplace being alive anymore. You can just do something like this and then forget about it, or at least don't worry about it as much as you did. So which Xbox 360 will I be using? It will be the nicest one that's ever been made, at least in my opinion. The Xbox 360 Slim, and that'll be the shiny version because I think there is a matte one as well that released a bit later on. This was definitely one of my favorite consoles of all time, not even just the nicest Xbox 360, it was one of the best ever. And I have no idea why. I just have something with shiny things, right? Like when the original PS3 came out, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And then they released this 360 in 2000, actually, I don't even remember when it was. It was around 2009, 2010, I believe it was, and damn. I had to basically run to the store to get it. I think what I did was I sold the one that I currently had and then went and just got this. I don't even know how I had the extra money or anything, but I did have this, and I was very, very fond of it. And one really good thing about this is it does work with every version of 360. So if you have like the original one, or if you have even the later one, the E, I think it's called. But to be honest with you, it's probably best to do it with one that's a little bit later on in the cycle. The 360 Slim is the perfect console for this because, like I already said probably 10 times, it was my favorite model of 360, and it just seems the best. I don't know. What am I saying? It's nice that it also has a 250 gigabyte hard drive, which I don't know if that entirely matters for this for the most part. You might not need an insane amount of storage because this is mostly just off a USB drive. It's just nice to have a lot of storage, no matter if you need it or not, because, you know, it's just nice. Okay, so I'm actually going to do something productive now. To be honest with you, this is not as bad as it should be. Sometimes you might think things like this are very difficult or just hard to follow. It's not bad. This is like going to be the quick version of how to do this. If there is a longer version on the internet or something to do this method, that's probably the best method to follow. The very first thing you need to do, and this is very important, because I think if you don't have this, then everything basically just crumbles to smithereens in front of your face. So the exact dashboard you need is going to be 1751 559. You can just find out that information by going over to your settings and going into system info, and you should be able to find that. If it's not, there will be a link in the description on how to download that or just where you get it. It's very simple. Just basically what it is if you don't have that dashboard, you just download it, put it on your USB drive, and then I think actually once you insert it into your 360, once the console is on, it'll just automatically recognize and it will download on your system. So you need to do that first. When you do something like this, there is always a high chance you could get your console banned. So it's probably just best to be on the safe side when you're doing this. Just disconnect from everything network related. USB drive. That's what you want. USB drive, you need it in FAT32 format. It's weird things are named that, but that's what you need it in. If you have 7-zip or something, this is obviously how you extract all these folders and everything. All right, so once you plug the USB drive in, you're going to make sure that apparently file name extensions and hidden items is checked. By the way, I should have probably said this very first or just earlier on or something. You should probably format the USB drive on the Xbox 360 as well. So to do that, you just go over to your settings again and then storage devices, and then you click on the USB drive, and then there's a format option. It's not hard to find or anything. So this is kind of a reason why I'm doing this, is because sometimes when I was trying to find out this information, there were things that were happening for other people that seemed to work, and for me it wasn't. This first link was not opening for me. I don't know, it's saying like my internet was not good or something, and it's like, no, it's fine, don't tell me that. This second link was the one I had to use. So this is where you find everything for the Rock Band Trial Blitz, and this is probably one of the most important things you need. So just open it up and then click on the I don't care. About to risk it all for viruses, apparently. No, it's fine. I think everything that I downloaded, I always scan and everything, and it seems fine. All right, so there is going to be links to everything you need for this, and then that's where you download them. So you want to open up the Xbox 360 bad update folder first once you extract it. So once you open up that, you want to just copy or just drag the files over to the root of your USB stick, and then that's what you do first. And then there's another step or more after that, I guess. This is where things kind of get a little bit weird and confusing for someone like me who normally doesn't do things like this. So the default .xex file, you want to go ahead and delete that. This is another very important folder you need for the jailbreaking process. This is going to be just a easy download as well from a nice GitHub page. If you want to read all the information, it's probably maybe a good idea to. I actually did. I normally don't do that, but I did. So open up this folder again once you extract it, and then you will see inside this one a freemyexe.xex file. And this is actually, I should mention this too, this is actually some things in, or some, what, that didn't make sense. Some things in this folder, like the OG Xbox prep.xex is a file I do think you need if you want to play original Xbox games on this as well, which if you want to know how to do that, that's kind of a process as well. I'll just leave a link in the description to someone who is very smart. So you take this freemyexe.xex file and then drag, oops, that's would have been bad. You drag this into the bad update payload folder, the exact folder that you deleted the default, and then you want to rename this default.xex. So you're basically just replacing the file you deleted with this one. So now go back to the root of your USB drive, and then this is when you go to the Rock Band Trial folder that you download that I mentioned, where it didn't work for the first one. I actually had to download the second one. And then once you open that, you're going to copy the content folder over to the root. And then the XEX menu is going to be something you need for this as well, which is going to be in another folder, which this was, again, giving me a little bit of a pain in the ass process, because sometimes I was trying to follow some information. It was the 1.1 version. I was not able to get the 1.1 version. I had to get the 1.21, but everything worked still. So this content folder is actually going to be quite important, because what I was saying before, or actually, I don't know if I said it yet. I either did or I'm going to talk about the fact that if you have an ISO file for Xbox 360 games, this is the folder. So once you open up the XEX menu folder, you're going to want to copy that over into the bunch of numbers folder, basically. And then that's kind of where, I already said that. That's where like all the games and everything are going to be. You're going to want a dashboard for this. So Aurora is probably the one of choice. If you don't know what that is, that's kind of what I've been showing for the menu where the games are like in a list or like side to side. So you can create a folder for this. Just create it and name it, I guess, Aurora. And then once you do that, you're going to want to open up the Aurora file, which will be included in the description. Everything in this you're going to want to copy over, though. It's not just going to be the only aurora.xex file. You're going to want to copy everything over. So once you do that, just highlight everything and then drag it into the Aurora folder. So another folder that is very important for this is, it's actually named Tools, but inside that you're going to want to go into the XE Patcher one, and then you're going to want to find this exact list of names. So this is where things get unbelievably confusing, because this is just weird. Okay, so once you're in this, just right click, or if you have a laptop it's weird, then just use your 2 fingers or whatever the hell right click is, and then click open in terminal, and then it should bring up a command window. And then this is where it gets very confusing. Or sorry, I'm already messing up. You're going to want to put in ./xex tool.exe space -m. God, this is confusing. .exe space -m space r space -r space a. So that is the necessary command you're going to want to put in. And then this is when I was talking about how you're going to want to get Aurora on this. Just go find Aurora again in the folder, because I closed it apparently. And then just find the aurora.xex file and then just drag it into the command window. I already did it, so I'm like scared to do it again. But once you just drag that over into the command window, just hit enter, and then it should patch everything after that, and then you should be good to go after that. So basically, whenever you want to get, to wrap this up finally, whenever you get like an emulator or a homebrew application or something, you're going to want to do that exact same method with the command window. Once you do that, just disconnect your USB drive and then just take it over to your Xbox, and that's where the next thing happens. Once you plug the USB drive into your Xbox, you should actually probably make another account, like a burner account or something. And then once you do that, just scroll over to your games column, and you should see Rock Band Blitz just sitting right there. And then once you click on that, it'll load in the game, and then you can run the exploit. This will probably take at least a few times to get this going. In fact, I think one night I just sat here and just wasted my night away just seeing if I could get this to run on the very first attempt. And then that's beautiful, because once that loads in, you can actually open up the XEX menu, and that's where you will find all of your applications like Aurora that you got on this, and then you can just open it. And then that's really all I've been doing with this for the most part, is just getting 360 and original Xbox games on this. But if you have other like emulators and everything, you can find that within the XEX menu as well. So when I was doing this, I wanted to find out information on this specific topic. And I wasn't really able to find much information on it. I'm sure there's plenty on the internet somewhere. I was just not really looking in the right places. So I came across a Reddit page, and I found out information for this program, where it basically just converts ISO files into the GOD format, which I believe stands for Games on Demand. It's honestly quite easy to use, to be honest with you, and I will leave a link to this program in the description. So all you gotta do is you gotta find it, open up the ISO to God. That's a very interesting program name, but this is just a very simple look. So this is the exact same, I should say this before this begins too, this is the exact same for original Xbox games too. However, for original Xbox games, you want to get them in the XISO file. I believe there might be multiple ways you can get an original Xbox game, and one of them is XISO and just one of them is normal ISO. So to run over this really quickly, because again, this is important and this was something that I was really interested in doing. So just click on Add ISO. Once you get to this screen, all you gotta do is click on Browse, and then find the ISO file you want. I'm going to go with Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2, and it should just load right here. Sometimes the game might take a little bit longer, but that took maybe a couple of seconds at most. And then you have to pick your output for the GOD path and ISO path, wherever you want it. This padding thing, there was a couple of things I found out on the internet where this looked different, so I don't know if this was just because it was an older version of this program or something, but it said something different. But I will tell you that I just left this on remove all for every single game that I've done this with, and every game has worked fine. And then after that, all you gotta do is click add. It will show up on the screen right here. Click on this and then just convert it. And then it usually takes around like 4 to 5 minutes for an Xbox 360 game, at least. Some of the original Xbox games might not take as long because they're not as large as these files. And that's really it, because once that is finished, you will find the folder appear wherever your output is. And after this, plug the old USB drive into the computer. Find your USB drive, obviously. I don't know if it really makes any sense, because obviously that's just probably obvious. This is the folder you want for every single game you want to transfer over. This is why there's so many in this right now, is because every time you do this, with original Xbox games included, you want to transfer them over to this bunch of zeros folder, and then once that is done, you should just see the game show up right on the dashboard, and if you're connected to the internet, you should see the cover art load in at some point as well. Or you can just click on the game details part and you can find one, whatever one you like, because sometimes there's multiple game covers you can download. Alright, so this is something I'm not entirely sure is even really necessary, but it might be. I also did not do this for like 90% of the games I got. I just simply got them on the USB drive and then transferred them over to the 360, and then they just loaded in and worked. This is just something that maybe if the game doesn't work originally, then this is something that could maybe get it to. I have no idea. But all you do is this will also be a link in the description as well. You just click on 360 Manager. Once that is finished and you use like 7-zip to extract it, you will see a folder within this one that's titled 360 Content Manager 3.2. Then you click on that, and that's the very first thing it should be, contentmanager.exe. And then you will get this pop-up saying, what would I like to do with it? I would like to browse my content on my PC. And then I think you just hit OK with this. What you do after this is wherever your USB is on your PC at the time, like whatever letter it is, you just click on that and find the content folder. And then once you do that, you should find the bunch of zeros folder. That is a very important folder you need. And then you should definitely keep track of, maybe like write it down or something, like whatever games you get. Try to remember the number for which game it is, because this game is Gears of War 1. So I'm not entirely sure if like every single one needs to be patched and everything like that, but this is just, I guess, what you do. So even if you have a situation where it says it is unlocked, this could be something just to make sure that it is. Just check this box, then right click on it, and you should see unlock checked files. And then once you click that, you'll see this. This is what you'll see. You will see this option, and then just highlight it and click patch. And then everything after that, I think, is done. That's really all you need to do. I know it's kind of a pain in the ass because there's already so many steps you need to do in this. Maybe just in general, this would be maybe a good idea anyway, but I can tell you 100% that like 90% of the games that I have gotten on the 360, I don't even think I did this with. Now, for the original Xbox games, that's a little bit different because you do need to also transfer some other files over. And again, it's just completely not right, or just, you know, I think if you told people how to get ISO files on your computer, then people will probably like show up at your door and 3D you through a table. So I can't do that, unfortunately. But it is, again, that is easy to find out. It's just you can't say it, I think. Or at least that's just what I hear from everyone else that says it on YouTube. I'm sure if I said it, I'd just get arrested or something. So I'm not going to risk that because I don't want to go to jail. And this is, again, unfortunately, another step you need to do, but this is also very easy. You just need to click Start once you are inside Aurora. And then all you do is you go to Content, and there should be a Manage Paths option right there too. And then once you get into that, just click Change once you see the Select Location. And then just find your USB drive, which should have the bunch of zeros folder inside of it already. And then that's just where all your games are going to be. So if you already have a bunch of games on it, and then you go back and put a bunch of more, or a bunch more, I don't know. If you just put a lot of games on it again, it'll just automatically load in without having to worry about trying to find them or something. But that was something that is also worth noting. There is kind of a downside to this. It's not something that I guess is a huge deal if you have some patience, like I don't. Or I do, I mean. I do have a lot of patience. This is something where every single time you start the system up, every time you power on the system, you're going to have to run this exploit every time. And that can be a little bit annoying sometimes because this can usually take anywhere between 5 and maybe half an hour. 5, not 5 an hour, 5 minutes. Legitimately, you can turn on the system and run this exploit and it'll be done within minutes, it seems like. And then sometimes you will 100% be sitting there for at least 20 minutes including shutting off and on the system a couple of times too. Because when you actually are loading this exploit and the screen freezes or the music stops playing, that means the exploit has failed and you're going to have to start the system over again. So that's kind of a pain in the ass, I guess. It's not something that's just going to load up every time you do it. So let's say you're trying to make dinner or something like that. I'd suggest maybe doing that and then coming up every, 5-10 minutes and seeing what's going on. But I honestly think it's still worth doing. If this took like 2 hours, I still think that'd be worth doing. But if it's just something where you don't want to wait around sometimes because it can be a little bit annoying, that's just something that is 100% worth noting because it's not something that's just going to be sitting on the 360 forever. So what are the benefits? Why would I do something like this to a 360? What makes this so amazing to do? Well, for one, you can get any Xbox 360 game you want on it if it chooses to work. Because that is also something worth noting, that sometimes games, it depends on how you get them obviously, like if you back them up via a disc, it might work that way, but if you try to get it from like, if you have an ISO image or something, which I don't condone, Microsoft, okay? Do not come to my house. I don't condone anything sketchy over here. I'm just saying, if you happen to have some laying around and you want to get them, the hell with it. We're all going to drop dead one day. This is really nice because you might be asking as well, what is the difference between doing that and playing on Xenia, the Xbox 360 emulator or something? Well, I can tell you it is a big difference because I tried to play Xenia a bunch of times and there were quite a few games that didn't run the best on that. And that could just be a settings thing. Like I didn't have the settings correct or something. If I just messed around with the settings, I could have eventually maybe got it to run well.
What are you looking at?
But for the most part, I tried to test out games that I did try to play on Xenia and did not work. And then I tried to get them on this and then played them. And I really feel like every one that I tried to play on Xenia that didn't work did work on this. That alone intrigued me because it was kind of a buzzkill that I was trying to play games on an Xbox 360 emulator that didn't work. It's just comforting knowing that the game is going to run every time you put it on the system. I guess I shouldn't say that because there are a couple of games that I tried to play that didn't work. It just gave you an error message that said you need to insert a disc. So maybe if you actually have the physical disc with you and you try to back up the game that way, it will work. But the fact that you can just get this on the system and not have to worry about messing around with settings, it's just nice knowing that most of the games, at least from my experience, will work even if they don't work on a 360 emulator at the time at least. I'm not exactly sure if I'm just looking in the wrong place or just not looking in the right place or just if that was the same sentence just said differently, then I don't know. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure how many historic consoles work on this or anything like that, like emulator wise, so it's just probably something that might be easier to find on like YouTube or something. I honestly think this is legitimately just 100% worth it if you only play 360 games. Like that's legitimately all I'm probably going to do for the most part. Yeah, I'm going to play original Xbox games, but just the variety of 360 games there is in the library, it's almost endless amounts. It's really hard to find a game that is terrible for the most part, especially probably should have ended that sentence. There's just no need to really look much deeper into it. It's just really a very strong library of games. I honestly could probably go on for hours about all the amazing Xbox games, but then I'd be sitting here for hours. Xbox 360 means a lot to me. It does. I really think about it a lot. There's many things that you might think about in your life when you look back on what you did, what you may have accomplished or something. I guess that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but sometimes you might just think about something in specific, and this is what I think about sometimes. Again, I'm not entirely sure how many consoles have the respect a 360 does, but I wasn't even someone who entirely liked anything but PlayStations growing up. I didn't really think that PlayStations were superior or something. I just really only played those. Like whenever a PlayStation would come out, it was just something that I needed to get. I didn't really want to experience an Xbox 360, I don't think, because legitimately it came out a year before the PlayStation 3. And I was waiting around for the PS3. I wasn't even considering going to the store and getting a 360. I just was waiting around for that. And it's weird because something that you never really thought was going to be in your possession at any time became something that I quite remember very much. And it's one of my favorite things ever. This generation as a whole, not even just entirely Xbox 360, just the 7th generation in total. It was a really fun time to be someone who liked to sit on their ass and play video games. Like, the 7th generation may have been more entertaining than a retirement home bowling session. It was just unbelievably fun. Does anyone else notice that whenever you see a trailer for a game these days that might not be well known, it automatically has more hate comments than comments that are positive? And this is not what this generation was like. It was quite the opposite. I was on the internet a lot back in the day, and I remember seeing a lot of trailers. There's not many games I remember that were flooded with negative comments. It almost felt like every time a new trailer came out for even games that no one even heard of before, it was just full of excitement, anticipation. It was great. It was fantastic, actually. There's nothing about it that I can think of right now that I'm just going to say that was bad. Because obviously there were some games that were terrible, but for the most part, they just throw them out, go away, throw them out the window. Frisbee them out like a pancake from Denny's. Or those are good. I don't know why I said that. I don't think I've made that many Xbox 360 videos on this channel. I made a lot of PlayStation 3 videos, which is well deserved because that system is incredible. Honestly, just recently in the last couple of months, I was able to play some games from this generation that I've never played before, and I thought they were some of the best games I've ever played in my life. Like Split Second, that is one of the most underrated racing games maybe ever made. No matter what it is, no matter if it's a game you've heard of before, you've played a bunch, or if it's just a game you've never heard of before, the 360 is always going to provide you with endless amounts of entertainment. It's really nice to be able to go back and play games from this era, especially if you were in the prime of 360, if you were around in the prime of it. You'll just be grocery shopping at Walmart thinking about how good Call of Duty 4 was or something. Black Ops. Playing BioShock for the first time and being scared to death to go into the dark building at the beginning. There's probably not anyone else that thinks about that in public, actually. Have a nice evening.